The rain lashed against the marble pillars of the sprawling Ashton estate, where silence ruled in the absence of its master. For 6 months, billionaire Richard Ashton had been away, handling global mergers, attending high-profile meetings, and chasing the next big acquisition that would make headlines. The mansion had become a palace without its king, managed by a handful of trusted staff and one particularly humble woman, Maria, the maid. Maria was a quiet, middle-aged woman who rarely spoke unless spoken to. Her dark eyes carried a sadness no one dared to ask about, and yet, she worked tirelessly, cleaning, cooking, caring for Richard's 8-year-old son, Ethan. Ethan had been different since his mother's passing 2 years earlier. Once cheerful and full of curiosity, he had withdrawn into silence. His father's constant absence only deepened that void. Maria had taken it upon herself to fill that silence with warmth. She would read him stories at night, cook his favorite meals, and even sneak him small chocolates when he did well in school. Over time, the boy had begun to smile again, something that hadn't happened in months. But Richard didn't know any of this. He was supposed to return next week. But the deal in Dubai closed sooner than expected, and without informing anyone, he boarded his private jet that night, determined to surprise his son. Maybe, he thought, this time he'd make up for lost time. As the limousine pulled through the iron gates, the mansion glowed faintly under the storm. The driver stopped under the portico, and Richard stepped out, umbrella in hand. The familiar scent of rain and oak greeted him, mixed with something else, warmth. He entered quietly, expecting to see darkness. But instead, faint music played from the living room. A lullaby. Richard's brow furrowed. He followed the soft tune, his footsteps echoing on the marble floor. As he neared the door, he saw flickering candlelight casting gentle shadows. He pushed the door open slightly, and froze. There, on the couch, sat Maria, gently cradling Ethan in her arms. The boy was fast asleep, his head resting against her chest as she hummed softly, a song Richard recognized from years ago. It was the same lullaby his late wife used to sing to Ethan. For a moment, Richard couldn't breathe. He watched the maid stroke his son's hair tenderly, tears glistening in her eyes as she whispered, "You're safe now, my little one." A surge of emotions hit him. Anger, confusion, disbelief. Who was she to touch his son that way? To sing his wife's song? To fill the void he had failed to fill? Without thinking, he stepped inside. The floor creaked. Maria gasped, her eyes widening as she stood abruptly, nearly waking Ethan. "Sir, Mr. Ashton, you're home," she stammered. Richard's voice was cold. What were you doing with my son?" "Sir, he couldn't sleep," she said quickly, her hands trembling. "He had a nightmare. I was just what?" he snapped. "Replacing his mother. Or replacing me." Her eyes filled with tears. "No, sir, I would never." "Leave," he ordered sharply. "Now." She looked down, her lips trembling, then silently walked out of the room. Richard turned back to Ethan, who stirred in his sleep. The boy's small hand still clutched Maria's shawl. He reached forward to take it away, but hesitated. His son's face looked peaceful for the first time in ages. The lullaby still lingered in the air, haunting him. And for the first time, Richard Ashton, a man worth billions, felt poorer than ever. The next morning, the storm had passed, but tension still hung over the mansion. Maria arrived at the servants' quarters early, as always. She kept her eyes low, moving silently from room to room. Richard's sudden return had shaken her to the core. She had worked for him for 2 years, never once crossing a line, but last night, something inside her had broken. Ethan's nightmares had grown worse. The child often woke up screaming, calling for his mother. Maria couldn't bear to see him suffer. The song had slipped out before she realized it, and now, she feared she might lose her job over it. Meanwhile, Richard sat in his study, staring at a photo of his late wife, Elena. Her soft eyes and kind smile still haunted him. He had been so consumed by business after her death that he'd forgotten what mattered most. He hadn't meant to lash out at Maria. But seeing another woman holding his son the way Elena once did, it had reopened wounds he thought had healed. A knock interrupted his thoughts. It was Mrs. Collins, the housekeeper. "Sir," Maria asked if she should pack her things. Richard frowned. "Is that what she thinks I want?" Mrs. Collins hesitated. You told her to leave, sir. He sighed. Tell her. I'll speak with her later. Hours passed before he finally sought her out. He found her in the garden, quietly trimming the roses Elena had planted years ago. The morning sun touched her face, revealing the exhaustion behind her eyes. Maria, he called. She turned immediately, startled. Sir. He paused. About last night. I may have overreacted. She shook her head. No, sir. You were right. I crossed a boundary. Why were you singing that song? He asked softly. Her gaze dropped to the soil. Because Ethan couldn't stop crying. He kept calling for his mother. I tried everything, sir, but nothing worked. And then, I remembered that song. My mother used to sing it to me when I was small. It was just instinct. He studied her face. You didn't know it was Elena's lullaby. No, sir. For a long moment, neither spoke. Richard finally said, You've been good to him. I see that now. He's happier than before. Maria looked up, surprised. He misses you, sir. He talks about you every day. Those words hit Richard harder than any deal gone wrong. He walked toward her, his voice softer now. I want to make things right, with him. Maybe with you too. That evening, for the first time in years, Richard joined Ethan for dinner. The boy's eyes lit up when he saw his father. You're home, Ethan shouted, running to him. Richard knelt, hugging him tightly. I'm home, son. For good this time. Maria watched from the doorway, her heart swelling. But deep inside, she knew something he didn't, something she had never told anyone. Years ago, before working for the Ashtons, she had been a nanny for another wealthy family, one that had mysteriously disappeared after a tragic accident. And though she had changed her name to start anew, that past was slowly catching up. Because the lullaby she sang wasn't just any song. It was one her own daughter used to love, before she vanished 8 years ago. Days turned into weeks, and peace slowly returned to the Ashton estate. Richard became more present in Ethan's life, taking him to school, reading to him, and even learning to cook pancakes with Maria's help. The mansion, once silent and cold, now echoed with laughter again. But Maria's heart was heavy. Every time she looked at Ethan, something inside her stirred, a strange familiarity she couldn't explain. His eyes, his smile, even the way he tilted his head when curious, it all reminded her of someone. One night, while organizing Ethan's old clothes, she found a small silver locket in his drawer. Out of curiosity, she opened it, and froze. Inside was a faded photo of a baby girl wrapped in a blue blanket. The initials AM were engraved on the edge. Maria's hands trembled. AM. Amelia Montes. Her daughter's name. She felt the room spin. Could it be? But before she could process it, Richard entered the room. Maria, are you all right? She quickly closed the locket. Yes, sir. Just cleaning. He noticed her trembling hands. You're pale. Sit down. She hesitated, then whispered, Sir, may I ask, where did Ethan come from? I mean, was he born here? Richard frowned. Yes. Why? She bit her lip. And his birth records. His early childhood. He narrowed his eyes. Why are you asking? Maria's voice cracked. Because I think there's something you should know. She took a deep breath and told him everything. About her past. About losing her daughter in a car accident years ago. About the lullaby and the locket. When she showed him the photo, Richard's expression turned to shock. This locket was found with Ethan the night my wife and I adopted him, he said quietly. Maria's world stopped. Adopted, she whispered. Richard nodded. Ethan wasn't born to us. We adopted him from a hospital after his biological parents died in an accident. The files were sealed. We never knew their names. Tears streamed down Maria's face as she whispered, that accident, it wasn't both parents. I was in that car. I survived. The truth hit them both like lightning. Ethan, her lost child, had been under her care all along. Richard's eyes softened. You're his mother. She nodded weakly. Yes, my baby. At that moment, Ethan appeared at the door, rubbing his eyes. Papa, why are you both crying? Maria turned toward him, tears falling freely. Nothing, sweetheart. Just something beautiful. Richard placed a hand on her shoulder. You should tell him. She knelt down and whispered, Ethan, do you remember the song I sing to you? He nodded. It's a song I used to sing to my little boy, when he was your age. I lost him a long time ago. But now, I've found him again. Ethan blinked, confused. What do you mean? Richard smiled faintly. She means, son, she's your real mother. Ethan's eyes widened. For a long moment, he didn't move, then he suddenly ran forward and hugged Maria tightly. Mom, he cried. Maria held him close, sobbing into his hair. Yes, my love, I'm here now, and I'll never let go. Richard stood silently, tears in his eyes. That night, the mansion glowed not with wealth or gold, but with something far rarer, love, reborn through loss. And as the rain began to fall again outside, Maria sang the same lullaby, no longer in sorrow, but in peace. For the first time, every heart in the Ashton estate was finally home.